I'm gonna do this video while I'm driving. So Jesus Christ, okay, made a video, and I also said that I was gonna make a video on how the sun can actually be a detriment to you. So I'm gonna make this video because I feel like this is how we actually at one time got into sun worshiping, okay? And Jesus Christ, okay, is the God of humanity, the Lamb of God, basically the sheep, the Christ, the God of the humans, okay? Now, the same way we say money and luxuries can change people, okay? The key is to not lose yourself in that false light. But then again, the whole thing is that this whole entire existence that you're in, that sun is the mirror of what you are experiencing here in this reality. So the same way, you know, when I was in California, and I keep bringing this example up because it's basically something that I like to make, it's easy to understand. But when I was in California, I said that I found myself acting differently, like the environment was influencing me to some extent. But when you know who and what you are, you basically remain silent and you observe. And in doing so, instead of like projecting your current state of being in a level that you're not in at the moment, you will start to notice that your environment starts to influence you and change you to acclimate more to that environment. So you're basically getting into the spirit of your environment, because that is all you, your spiritual space. When you look at everything outside of you, you're looking at literally your mental space. But when you come out of your programmed day-to-day reality, you're going into unusual territory. And if you don't know who and what you are, you may say things that is not conducive to that environment. So that's why I said basically the best option you may have is to basically remain silent and observe and just feel and exist in the moment, but in your now moment. And your influence may start to be that environment. So now you start, like I said, I found myself walking differently, speaking differently. I found myself just acting differently. But see, here's the thing, at the end of the day, you're just acting. See, I saw a documentary, and I've said this example in previous videos, with the guy that played Pablo Escobar in the soap opera, El Patrón del Mal. He basically said that it's psychologically taxing because you have to become that character. And you basically, you know, the key is to not lose yourself in that character. So he said he found himself in his day-to-day life kind of feeling that character even when he's not acting, basically making the role. But he also said that he was having dreams and nightmares about the character because he was embodying that character so much. So he had to take time off and literally purge that energy out of him, right? When you're in an environment, let's say like I just mentioned in California, you're acting at the end of the day. But some people lose themselves in that character and they forget who and what they are. These spiritual people do the same thing. Religious people do the same thing. If you want to look at it from the deepest level of things, humanity is also a form of false light, as regardless of how organic it is. You get what I'm saying? A lot of people came into this realm and got lost in the light of the sun that they observe outside in their reality. Okay, so they started to basically sun worship. And it's not about sun worshiping, it's about using these things to your advantage, but knowing that these things are a system you designed to have you have an experience. No different than the money that's out there, the luxuries. They're there, and you have the ability to live that out if you become abundant consciousness. If you become that. But you become those things through awareness. If you're in a poverty state, you change the programming and you become abundant. The same way you came into this realm, you came in pure, you're absorbing your reality through your parents, which are basically your gods at that level, until they teach you about an external source of God, where they were indoctrinated. And then the whole thing is, these filters is hard to break down because they become programs. And right now, when you're observing the sun at the end of the day, if you want to go from a scientific point of things, the sun is also limited. It's not limitless. Because you can actually observe, let's say by scientific studies, that the sun has the ability to burn out at one point in time. But they said don't worry, because that may happen 5 billion years from now. Okay? But the whole thing is that it's not infinite. So it's still limited. Regardless of you see, time doesn't exist. So even though they tell you don't worry, it's only 5 billion years from now that it'll happen. Okay? And then there'll be a certain period of time where it'll be another, like, 2 million or 2 billion years where the sun will go through its death phase, right? Where it would just cease to exist. This would be the end of the world, right? But the time that this happens is actually when you die. Matter of fact, Christ came into existence, all right? The moment you came into this world and took your first breath, okay? And when you're looking at the sun being the story of Jesus Christ, it's limited. But how do you know, okay, that you're here to serve all these life sentences, and the only way that you can actually evolve is when the sun actually literally dies out, as far as how you would observe it in a physical death of the sun. So let's say you're here and you keep reincarnating, and you could potentially keep reincarnating for 5 million years, or 5 billion years rather, until the sun dies out. But what happens? You stay in that state until you wake up from the illusion of the fact that you think you're human. Okay? So the same way, if you're born poor, you will die poor unless you become aware that you could become rich. Okay? So this whole reincarnation thing is a mental state, but at the end of the day, everybody's living in their animalistic nature. When you look at animals, when I'm going to get into the topic of these vegans, they say, well, if you observe animals, they are thriving and they fight to stay alive. Okay? But these animals don't have the ability to have a metaphysical experience or know of a Christ consciousness, let's say. Okay? So these animals are not beings, they're just nature or state of being, and they are a mirror or a reflection, to be honest to you, of your animalistic natures. And I'm talking about every single animal that you know of. And there's animals that are extinct that you don't know of that are still a mirror of your animalistic self, such as like woolly mammoths, saber-toothed tigers. See, all these things they say are extinct, the same way they say these creatures at the deep bottom of the ocean that were never discovered because we don't have the technology to go deep in there. It's basically coming down to you getting into the deepest layers of your actual human body, because your human body is sacred and very valuable, because what you're experiencing here is all determined on the state of being of your actual body. But you see how when you say we say human beings, you're being human, right? But a lot of people, like, look, I made the example of the sun in the previous video where I said that water is programmable, right? Your body's made of water. Whenever they look for life in other planets, the first thing they look for signs of life is basically they look for water, right? But then we look at the sun. The sun is the giver of all life. Without the sun, nothing exists, right? So you need the sun there. But that's what I'm talking about. You are the actual sun, and the body is the actual planet that you're inhabiting with life, because it's got water, but it's because you are made of the same exact amount of water that the planet is made of. Okay? So the planet is basically you. You are the planet. And the sun is your consciousness, is basically your reality that you're collapsing into existence to light up your world, or be the generator, operator, and even destroyer. Destroyer, if you're hurting yourself, the sun could actually be the destroyer, right? But it is also your generator. That's why you have a solar plexus, which is basically where your sun is at, and everything that's reflected from inside of you is outside of you. If you look at what the universe is made of, which we want to call universe, God, or heavens, or whatever it may be, is basically carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. This is the same exact thing that you consist of. So the universe is basically in you. So when you look at the sun, for example, the sun, okay, can also be your entrapment. Okay, it could be your entrapment, because the same way we say the Son is Christ, the Son is Jesus, and we look at the Son as like, oh, the healer and whatnot, and we depend on the Son to get all our information, okay, because you say you got light codes or a download or whatnot. This is still entrapment, okay? The Christ is the God of humanity. That's why they put Jesus as a man, because it's basically the God of man, and they represent it as a man for that reason. But it's the Son of God. So the Son that you're observing is your Son. You're the God that's your Son. So the Son, Jesus Christ, okay, is a man just like you are. And that's why in the Bible he says you could do what I do, but even better, okay? Because the Son is there because of you. So this whole Jesus Christ thing, being a healer and whatnot, yeah, the Son is technically what you are. That's why it has the ability to heal you, and it has the ability to hurt you, because you have the ability to heal yourself, and you have the ability to hurt yourself as well. So it could be a detriment, but if you stay in that loop, then you stay in the fact that you're human. And when you look at even Christians, how they say, you know, Jesus Christ gives you everlasting life, okay? And that's because you're constantly looking for that particular light. And the light you should be looking for is the light that you have within you. Because when you close these eyes, okay, stop depending on these blinds, right? Close the blinds. Like you close the lights, you're in darkness. Your brain produces something called melatonin, right? This melatonin is regenerative, but it's also a technology that activates a certain chemical called DMT in your brain, okay? Which floods when you're dead, but when you sleep, you have a certain amount of it. Okay, if you get all your organs working in harmony and you bring this energy, okay, when you basically tighten your intrinsic muscles and you bring this energy up to your brain, okay, you're bringing it up to the upper realms, which there's a bunch of videos online that shows you basically, you know, bringing it up past the gateway of the heart, which is the projector of the earth. This is why anagram for heart is earth. And then you bring this energy up to the heavens. You are now in Christ consciousness. So you're closing the blinds. You are now able to make thy eyes single and your body fills with light. And now you actually know what the real light is. You know what I'm saying? But you're lost in this light. It's the same way you get lost into the light of luxuries, or the light of even, let's say when you're acting on stage or becoming a character, right? You get lost in that character so much that it can psychologically fuck you up. You see, from the moment you're born up until now, all these characters you know of outside, that's why you have different personalities, you have different characters, and you use them depending on who you're interacting with. So you act differently around different people, okay? But you get lost in these characters so much that you forget who and what you are, which is basically nothing. This is why you have the ability to be all these things, because you're basically no thing. You're not a thing. You're not something, because then you're limited to that something, okay? So that's why I make this video. So I spoke positively about the Son, which is still a positive thing because it's a positive energy. The negative energy would be basically the chaos of the planet, which is what you are. Humanity is the chaos, but you overcome humanity, right? And you now make order out of the chaos of your world, because this is basically what you're looking at. You're here by yourself. From each one's perspective, nobody's really outside of you. You're here by yourself, and you're all observing mirror images of what you are inside of you. So again, this is why I said you don't see the world for how it is, you see the world for how you are. This is why you attract certain people of certain statuses, and when you come out that comfort zone, like I just told you, if you're poor and you go into a rich neighborhood, you don't know how to act. But that's why, again, be quiet, observe, let the environment influence you, you getting into the spirit, because the spirit is your space. Your soul would be your individuality, right? Your individual experience. But a lot of you give away your soul based on what you're hearing outside of you, and that's no different than just selling your soul. But that's all I got for this video. If you have anything to say, leave it in the comments. That actually does help my channel out a lot. Also, if you like my video, and we will talk soon.